Good afternoon. And so the South African government, the Department of Health, Mr. Joe Fakhla, has repealed the health regulations that he had published on the 5th of May. Remember, he made two publications, one of which he published immediately without public consultation, and the second was another set of regulations which he asked the public to comment on. Now, the ones that you had repealed yesterday is to be understood, they comprised of three pieces. They comprised one about the wearing of face masks. The second was about gathering in indoor spaces. And the third was regulations or rules or restrictions relating to international travelers coming in at the ports of South Africa. So Mr. Joe Fakhla has then decided to suggest that these be repealed. And then he gave reasons as to why he believes or think that it was time for them to be repealed. Now, the government want to have you believe that they are making these decisions voluntarily, the decision to repeal the regulations voluntarily, and that there is no other reason other than the reasons they give as to why they are repealing those regulations. When you repeal, which means you cancel them, you're saying they are no longer necessary for the following reasons. What the government had said, they say, the reason why they put them there in the first place, they said, COVID cases, case numbers were going up. That's what they said. Infections going up. Hospitalizations were going up. That's what they said. They hadn't exactly given you the full detail of that. Just speaking to someone, I've said that it's really disappointing that when it comes to the media doesn't give critical analysis about what the government says. They simply report exactly what the government says. They do not inquire critically so as to hold the government accountable about what they say. Take, for example, when your government said back then, case numbers are going up. What is a case? What they call a COVID case. Is someone who tested positive from a PCR test that they've done. The very PCR test confirmed to be unreliable to detect or confirm or diagnose coronavirus disease. But then they say that's a case. When you test people in this week, let's say people got tested a week ago and they return what they call a positive test result for that person, right? In about a week or two's time, the same person goes back and tests again. So it's still one person that is tested. But what you get, by the time they go and add up the report, they are adding this person again to the numbers, and they say, and they now give you an accumulative number. So they say it's an accumulation. It looks like the case numbers are going up. It's a case number. Quite often, the same people having been tested, and you are given the impression that there is a whole lot more people coming up with coronavirus positive test results from an unreliable PCR testing. These are things that the media ought to have done critical examination upon. Nonetheless, that is in hindsight, again, to show you how you've been duped by the government. So Joe has now decided, and according to him, the cabinet agrees that they should repeal these regulations. But what he does not talk about is the fact that he is due in court on the 25th of July, being challenged by organizations in the country about his reasons, about the very regulations that he had promulgated without public consultation, which basically is a direct continuation of disaster management when there was no disaster. They had declared it at an end. They do exactly now what they have done when they were threatened with court action by another organization called Solidarity, and boom, they called the disaster to an end before the court case, which meant that there was no need to go to court, because they would simply argue in court, well, the point is moot, because what they're asking for has already been done. They're doing exactly the same here, and now say, well, those regulations are no longer in place. What are they complaining about? So you're not going to get that satisfaction in court. But then again, there are a lot more tactics to that. Now, what you've got to be conscientious of, it is now confirmed that the government had repealed this. And again, in case you had not seen the factual repealing of the regulations for yourself, as we say, we preferably work with primary sources. Let me take you just real quickly to that and show you that the government had repealed the regulations. What you do is you go to government notices, South African government notices there. In fact, let me make this slightly bigger for you so you can see. Make that bigger. And on the 22nd of June, which was yesterday, you probably can't see this, I've got that on my screen. And here is the National Health Act regulations relating to the surveillance and control of that. And it says National Health Act regulations repeal. Repeal means they are cancelling it, they're drawing it back. And this is the statement, the notice that has been put out. Now you know that it is official. Okay? 175. And there it states, I, Mathume Joseph Pahla, Minister of Health, hereby repeal regulations 16A, 16B, and 16C of the regulations relating to the surveillance and control of notifiable medical conditions made in terms of Section 91J, K, and W of the National Health Act 2003, Act 61, 2003, and promulgated on 4th May. And listen to this nice, interesting bit, under Government Notice 260, in their entirety. Right. So now you know all of that is gone. So 16A dealt with the wearing of masks, 16B dealt with gatherings in indoor places, and 16C dealt with international travelers. All of that is now gone. Now, what is the issue with this then? This is the part where you have got to be wide awake. Remember, your government is jostling for power. The position that is clear in the public is none of this was necessary in the first place. So in order for the government to have a sense of power and control over you, is to give you the sense that there is a relief, Okay, so many people will now go through the psychological process of feeling that, ooh, we are relieved from all of this. You're not relieved from all of it, because those regulations were a sidetrack. It was distracting you from the real draconian measures that they are seeking to implement, because those regulations that he hadn't published without public consultation are still out for consultation, and they are the dangerous ones. And I'm talking about where you can be tested and even treated against your will. That is what those regulations are suggesting. They also asking you to comment on their idea of isolating people away from the rest of the public. It means that if a member of your family had been tested to be positive for what they considered to be coronavirus disease, or a notifiable medical condition of which coronavirus disease is now put on that list, and they could take that family member away, even if it was a child, or you, perhaps the breadwinner, and you can be separated and you can be put into a facility that they consider a suitable quarantine facility where you will be offered treatment. See that? Offered treatment, testing of you, despite your right to bodily and psychological integrity as protected in the Constitution, right? Your consent should be required, but these are the laws that they actually want to pass. They've now given you the sense that nothing else matters anymore. Be careful. Make sure that your comment and your position on those regulations that they are contemplating to actually make law, those things should not be in there in the first place, because they are draconian. They places a serious danger on your liberties, because all they need to do is to declare another pandemic of a notifiable disease, and then they can do all of that. This is what you have to watch out, and those are the parts that you need to make sure that your comment gets into government. And government said, Joe Fahla said, that they will or want to consider the comment of each citizen who does comment to be included in the decision making as to whether those regulations should be made in that way or not. The majority of people we speak to do not want these regulations in the first place because they're not necessary. They are draconian, they are offensive, and they place a huge risk on public liberty. Effectively would make a mockery of your constitutional and human rights. These are what you've got to watch out for. So be careful about thinking that everything is hunky-dory. Your government is playing a trick with you. It's called an anomaly trick, where you had been stretched. Your stress levels has been stretched so far, and now they've relaxed it, right? And now you think they haven't got a grip on you, but they've effectively simply misdirected everyone's attention. And let's talk about the media for a moment as well. The media is very complicit in this. They do not report critically, as I've said, and you can read it for yourself. Look at how the media had misrepresented what the government is or had been challenged for. Recall the case of Action for Freedom challenging the government about the notice period for consultation. Guess what the media reports? The media reports Action for Freedom challenges the government about the draft health regulations. Not true. They've not read it for themselves. It's either they haven't read it or they deliberately misrepresent in the media so as to paint a completely different narrative. Watch out for these. It's important that you stay well informed and keep your eyes focused on what the government is doing in the background and what they're doing it in a language which isn't necessarily understood by everyone in the country. The country has 11 official languages. There are also people who speak other indigenous languages, such as the Khoisan, whose languages is now being recognized for teaching and education in the schools, only just now. Now imagine these regulations, the draft regulations that is being commented on up until the 5th of August, and we know the history as to how we got to the now suddenly 3-month period. It's still in English. It's still only in English. I have not seen, if anybody has seen a copy of those regulations, the draft of in Xhosa Sepedi, or in a language that can be read and understood by indigenous people such as the Khoisan, or in Braille for blind people to be able to read, please forward us that copy. Because these are things that the government has to consider. If you do not put it in a language or in a medium that can be understood by other persons who are also to be affected by these rules, then you must consider that, oh, there's a reason why we don't put it in a language or in Braille for the blind, because the blind won't be affected by this. But if the blind are going to be subjected to these regulations, that if they were promulgated, we're not saying they are going to promulgate, this is an if, then you cannot subject them to it because you never consulted them. You haven't consulted them in a manner by means that they can understand. Also, the public who doesn't necessarily have access to the government, as we said, internet access or data for use for these purposes, or sending things by text. If you look at the consultation process that the government has published, which have shown how the government expects you to make your comments online, but the system itself has no way of validating, verifying who the person is who comment. So you could have a lot of comments going into the government's portal, the portal that they've put up on their page, but it doesn't ask to verify who the person is who's commenting. So you could quite easily just have a mob being paid loads of money to put a lot of fake comments in there. Fake, literally fake, and fake names. They could even use your name and pretend that you commented, and they say, oh, they're happy with the draft regulations as they are, and they agree that they should just be. And the government would go on that information, think, it's hunky-dory, the public is happy, we've got the evidence to it. But who commented? Did you comment? And how do they know it was you? Well, your name is in there. You see, I want to show you something. How, for instance, here in the UK, the government makes absolutely sure. I want to show you the example of a petition, for instance. How, if you wanted to petition the government here in the UK, you can literally go to, say, petition UK government, right? You click on there. No, that's change.org. UK government and parliament. You can search for petitions, or you can simply go down. These are popular petitions where you can see what the petitions are. You can start a petition there. Click on that and you can start a petition. What do you want the government to do? just like that. Now you go to South Africa, South Africa's parliament, look at this. Parliament.gov.za, they give you loads of information. It's very hard even just to get their page to open up. If you wanted to start a petition, you've got to write it out. According to them, the page still doesn't even open. I really don't know why. So I'm not going to labor that point too much. But even the petition that we started, you first had to find the support of a member of parliament. Then the member of parliament now need to take it to the National Assembly, and then he needs to fill in a form. It has to be going into the prescribed form. I mean, what kind of direct public engagement is this? It's weird, isn't it? You see how it's as if your government doesn't really want you to participate in the decision making about lawmaking. Now there is some documents, obviously, in government communications, as I haven't seen the originals yet, but obviously the individual that has shared the clips that they have with me, and as it was reported in the news media as well, that the government is referring to 4 organizations as apparently conducting acts of terrorism for simply making inquiries to the government. Now, further to that, they consider that the public shouldn't think or expect that each and every one of their comments will be taken into account. This is literally how your government holds you in contempt. It implies that your voice doesn't matter. And this is why they need to be held accountable. The push needs to be kept up. Away with the masks and the gathering restrictions and all of that now. But at the same time, Joe Fachler wants to say, he says to the public that just a word of caution, COVID-19 isn't gone yet. That's not even my own words. That's literally what he said. I'll find it for you on his own briefing. Well, the Parliament site has only just opened up, but we want to take you to the government website, gov.za, gov.za. Let's do that. Let's just go to gov.za, and you can see what he says in his own statement. What's new South African gov.za? No, we don't want the documents latest. Go there. They say, let's grow together as South Africa. Grow in which way? Doesn't seem like they need much help with putting money under mattresses. They could probably do with a bit of help there, and we could all grow together. That's how we grow in South Africa. That's how they roll. Come on, government. Website doesn't seem to want to open. All right, I'll wait for that to open. But this is what Joe Fachler said. He says that, remember, just a word of caution, coronavirus isn't gone yet. So what was the reason that he then says as a further supporting reason as to why they're doing away with masks and social distancing and requirements for people to be testing or to be injected with these substances to come into the country? He says, because, this is the words he used, we are now stronger against the virus. So if you're stronger, right? You know, I can't remember what it is, and can't remember what we used to say in Afrikaans at school. There's a sort of escalation. You're strong, stronger, and then strongest. So it means that we must have been strong at some point, and now that we are stronger, okay, and it shows there's improvement. So it means the virus ain't winning. the virus that they simply test by way of a computer generated code, right? So if that is the case, we now have to also then ask the following critical question. If it is safe to walk without the mask in public, if it is safe to go into a place like a store without a mask or without the need to prove that you are vaccinated, why on earth do you need to be vaccinated to go into your place of work? Answer that one, Mr. Joe Parker. And why don't you then make it clear to employers there is no law that requires anybody to be injected/vaccinated to go into a public space? If that is the case, then there is also no law, and it is illegal, it is unlawful to require somebody to be injected with a substance simply to come into their workplace when the government says we are all now stronger. If we are all stronger, then that is the case. So talking directly here to some of you listening about what is happening in the workplace and why are they still allowed to enforce this, this is where the pressure has to come to government. Government now has to formulate on the back of the public's wishes to make it law that nobody can be required as a condition of employment, a condition of access to a place of shopping, as a condition to get onto a plane, that you should be vaccinated. To do anything, it shouldn't be a condition, and it should be regarded unlawful, illegal, and it should be punishable by 250,000 Rand per day for any employer that expects or puts a condition as a requirement for you to come into your workplace that you must be vaccinated. When the government themselves says, we, the whole public, are now stronger against this virus. It's either the government is lying or the employers don't agree with the government. Which is it? Which is it? Does the employers agree with what the government say, or do they disagree? If they disagree that the general public is now stronger, then they should put that to the government. And the government should now answer to these employees and say to them, we are stronger. I was not kidding. I was not lying. We are stronger. This is why we are doing away with masks. This is why we don't worry about people gathering in buildings. They don't need to see social distance anymore. We do not limit the number of people. There's no requirement for you now to tell us what is the floor size of your building and that you should only have about 50% of the people in there. And we also not even bothered about the people who are coming into the country. We don't test them, nothing. They don't need to quarantine, nothing. This is why I'm coming. This is why I'm coming. Because look, you can fly to the UK, you don't need to be tested. So why can't I fly to South Africa without being tested and all of that? Yeah. So now that we know that the government has said that you don't need any of these measures, why do you need these measures in the workplace? Yeah? Is it the case that no, the virus is still dangerous in the workplace, but it's okay in a shopping mall? It doesn't make sense. So this is the pressure that now needs to be put onto government to say you now need to roll that idea and that ruling out to the employers. So employers should stop their nonsense. Having said that, we'll be back. We will be on the road in the second week of July. This evening, we will be concluding this evening and tomorrow with dates and times, and shall be publishing and putting up there for you where we're going to be. Well, you're more than welcome to come and meet us and greet and have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever drink you prefer, provided you get your own. And let's get some common sense going into the public, more than anything, to get your views definitely, properly registered with government, and to make sure that they take note of it. For those people who cannot access the internet, we want to help you to put your views about the regulations, those other regulations which are still being consulted on, for you to put it on paper. And we also perhaps want to help you to put your views on a video that could be delivered to government. Maybe that's the way that you want to deliver your message to government. How about the people who are blind, right? Maybe we need to help them put theirs in writing in braille form to put their views across. What about the people who are deaf? Perhaps they want to submit by their preferred way of speaking to government in sign language. We need to help people to record that for people and deliver that to the government. They can't say that that's not acceptable, because you can't discriminate against people on the basis of language and their abilities or disabilities. You have to accommodate them. Otherwise, the government is very discriminatory or selective about who can make submissions. And to the point that what the government had said, strangely, that page still hasn't opened. It's really, really weird. Every time I want to get to the government's website, it just doesn't open up. Really just doesn't open up. But anyhow, as I say, it's very important that the government takes notice of everybody's comment and views about these regulations. But first of all, people must know first, and then understand what those regulations actually are and mean, those remaining ones. Because a lot of people will now just think, oh, happy days, we're gonna have a bonfire with the masks. Yeah, we should burn it all. The masks I'm talking about, not anything else. And you're perfectly entitled to do so. You can either chuck it in the bin, chuck it safely, or burn it if you want. But everybody should be well informed about what those remaining draft health regulations are. Today, we spoke at an event with Thuli Madonsela, or Professor Thuli Madonsela, the former the person who formerly held the office for public protection. And she invited Action for Freedom to come and talk and deliver our views upon the draft health regulations, so as to put joint submissions towards that. Now, our submissions are very clear, and our position is very, very clear. And it is for that reason that we had live streamed, so as to also record, so that you can hear exactly what our submissions are. We do not agree with these mediocre approach, which basically wants to justify and support what the government is doing, especially those things which are offensive of your basic human and inalienable rights. So we have to be very careful and watch out how other people or other submissions may want to manufacture your consent into getting those remaining draft health regulations to become law. You find yourself in a very, very different world, especially that when this government is relying on the World Health Organization to be its guiding post. Dangerous. The World Health Organization, you have not elected any of those people on there. They are not a democratic organization. And they are funded by organizations such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and that is a fact, not conspiracy theory. It's a fact. And you think the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is just happy to give money away? No, these buggers, they live for money and they live by the money, and they want something in return for it. It's the very same organization that has been pushing all of these substances and investing in these substances that has now also evidently caused lots of harm to people. Here in the UK, the first payout for vaccine injury had been ruled and paid out successfully. The first case of vaccine injury has been accepted here in the UK. More to come, because it is the evidence can no longer be ignored. You will recall from the case of the ACDP last month, I think, or a month before. No, not sure, can't remember. No, it was in April 28th, where there was this organization who sought to make sure that the ACDP or those claimants didn't get the opportunity to come and present the evidence of the dangers inherent in these products. So you've got to be vigilant, people, but partially great news, and it's not for the reasons that Joe Fahla says, or the government says. Great news that those regulations are completely dropped, no more mask wearing. It's not thanks to the government, it's thanks to you, the public, that has categorically said, you don't want this. All right, so let's get working on this. Keep up the pressure, and in the next video, fairly soon, I should come and tell you when we're landing, where we will be gathering, to give you some more punchy information, and we get this thing on the road so that we can get people properly empowered and make sure your government does what you want. Not your government shouldn't be expecting you to do what they want you to do. No, no, no. They should do what you want them to do. That is how it works. That's the balance of the power. I'll just have a quick check and see. Well, I can see there are quite a number of comments, but I want to keep the video real tight and short. But now I've got to jump into another meeting, and we should be talking in the next video about my arrival and us getting onto the road, because now we can get a lot of people into a whole country. There's no need for social distancing, baby. Perfect timing, isn't it? Let's talk about that some other time. I wish you all a great day, great weekend ahead, but I should hopefully, if it's not tomorrow, then the day after, she'll publish and also come live, and we'll talk about that and let you know where we can meet up. Have yourselves a great day, and let's keep fighting, stay strong, don't give up. Giving up is not an option. All the best.